friends. Today I'm going to be doing a February wrap-up. I only read 5 books this month, but it's actually really good still for me. It wasn't as strong of a month as January, where I read just like a ton of books, but I do think I still kept my stride, because 5 books is not too shabby. So yeah, I'm just gonna get into what I read and talk a little bit about them. The first book I read in the month of February is I Know What You Did Last Summer by Lois Duncan. My mom's currently reading it, so I might put a picture up there. This is a book about teens who, 4 teens who, they run over a person in the road, a boy, I think it's a boy, and they decide to keep driving, and they call the police, but then they don't go back to the scene of the crime, and the boy ends up dying. A year later, they start getting messages from some mysterious person saying, "I know what you did last summer." And so it's a mystery book about, they're trying to figure out who did it. Obviously, if you've seen the movie, you know the movie is very, very different than the book, but it's still in essence similar. Is someone's blackmailing them and trying to make them confess, essentially. I did this book for a new kind of video series I'm doing, where I read the book and watch the movie, and then I talk about the differences and what I liked about them and if I liked the movie or the book better. So I did a video for this one on that. So in that video, I talked about how I was imagining that the book would have a lot of language and a lot of gore and stuff and bloody violence, but the book was very, very different from the movie, and that it was very clean, and it wasn't really, it's not really like a horror, it was more just a thriller, and even then it was written in the 70s, so it's a little bit cheesy, a little bit, I think probably most people would be able to know who the killer is, or who the person stalking them is, before they reveal it in the story. But for me, I haven't read a lot of the suspense thriller genre, so to me, I was surprised. I really enjoyed this book. I don't know if I already told you, but I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. For what it was really fun. It was a quick read. I read it in a day. I really enjoyed it. I understand a lot of people might not like it, especially if you were a fan of the movie first, and then you read the book. You might not like it. I just really did. So that was the first book I read. Then the next book I read wow, it's glaring. The second book I read I always want to say January, February, was Restore Me by Tara Mafi. I watched a video on Instagram of her telling how to pronounce her name, and I still don't think I do it right. But you know who it is. And this is the 4th book in the Shatter Me series. This, to me, I'm not going to go into a summary because it's part of a series, but this to me wasn't the strongest story of the series. But to me, there's other books in the series that weren't as strong to me. Part of it is you setting up a story, and this book, I feel like it's setting up the next phase of the story. So it was just a lot of steps, a lot of in-between stuff that's not exactly fun to read all the time. It was kind of slower for me, but I'm really excited to read Defy Me. I think it'll be really good. I give this book 4 out of 5 stars. It just still wasn't, it was enjoyable, but it wasn't my favorite one. Also, Warner and Juliet are kind of at odds in this one, and I'm here for the Warner and Juliet content. So, but I did like this book, and I'm excited to see where the series is going, and it's really exciting. So then the next book I read was The Stranger in the Woods, The Extraordinary Story of the Last Hermit by Michael Finkel. This is a nonfiction story of a man who was a hermit, I believe, for 35 years. It might have been more. So this was actually he was in the woods for 27 years. He lived in the woods by himself, and only reason he got caught was he was stealing food, and they finally caught him. And at that point, when they caught him, like technology had caught up, so like they had high security cameras and things guarding properties that he was stealing, and so then that's how they caught him. So this follows the story of like why he was a hermit. This man who wrote this book interviewed the hermit, which was, his name was Christopher Knight. He gets to meet him and he talks to him while he's in jail. And he also, in this book, he talks about other people who have chosen the hermit lifestyle and why those things and how that differs from Christopher Knight's experience and why he became a hermit. They also talk about diagnosis about like what maybe mental problems he might have and why he decided to take to the woods. Also, I thought this was a really interesting discussion of, do we as people need human interaction to be humans? Like, if we were all by ourselves for 27 years, what does that look like? Does it affect you? A lot of people were scared of him because, you know, people are scared of what they don't understand. But I did think this was a very interesting story. I was really, like, fascinated about it through the first half of the book. And the last half of the book I felt was very slow going for me. I felt like I understood like he took years to write this. And so he put in a lot of research and time. It's just, I think towards the end, I was just done with this whole concept. Like, I could only handle it. It's not even that long. I think it's like 200 pages. I could only really handle 100 pages of this guy. Also, the man is not a very nice man, but he's also been alone for so long. So, like, he doesn't care about people, and that shows in, like, his talking. I also, like, it was an interesting conversation of should he be put in jail, because he spent so long of a time, like, alone, and to put him in jail with a whole bunch of other people seemed kind of cruel. But it's also, like, what do you do with a person who lives off the land? Like, he wasn't living off the land. He was, like, stealing from people. It's one thing, like, to have a guy just, like, you know, living off of a property and, like, killing, you know, hunting and whatnot to survive. But this man was robbing people, and he kind of, like, scared a lot of people in the community in which he lived for a long time, and he was kind of a legend. A lot of people didn't know if he was real. I just thought this was a very interesting commentary. I enjoyed reading about other hermits who made this decision. I enjoyed reading about his, like, medical analysis. I enjoyed reading a lot of it. It's just, like, once they started talking to him, I didn't enjoy that as much, just because, as I said, I don't think he's a very nice person. But I do think he's an interesting person, and I think it was interesting to see, like, why he thought the way he did. But yeah, like I said, the first 100 pages I felt were very strong, and then as it got to the end, I was just kind of over it. I ended up giving this a 3-star. It might be like a 3.5. I probably would pick up more stuff based off from this author if he writes more. Just like I like the author who wrote, like, Into the Woods? Into the Wild. Not Into the Woods. I like those kinds of stories, so that's what really drew me to this. This was fun because I found this on Goodreads or something. I saw a lot of people talking about it. I don't know where. I think Goodreads I found it. It might have been a recommended thing. And then, so I was interested in the story, and then I found it at the thrift store. And so I got it for really cheap. So that's always fun to find something that you're, like, actively looking for. Like, I was interested in reading this. Like, usually at the thrift store you just find stuff that, like, you know, I've never heard of, or, like, that I discover at the thrift store. But it was fun to find something that's, like, actively on my TBR that I had just seen. So I finished Woman of the Word by Jen Wilkin. I didn't give this a rating because I usually don't give books of this nature a rating. This is like a Christian, Christian help book. And it's basically how to study the Bible, both with our hearts and our minds. So she just talks about, like, ways to study the Bible, why studying the Bible is important, and all that. And I enjoyed it. I think I will implement some of the things that she taught about in this book. There's some of it that I didn't feel like was really applicable. Didn't really affect me, or like things like not exactly for me. But I did really enjoy this. It's not very long. And I felt like if you're trying to figure out, like, I don't really know how to study the Bible, I've just only ever really read it. I feel like this is a helpful tool if you're looking to study the Bible. It's a one that helps you push you in the right direction. And the last and final book I read in February is Along for the Ride by Sarah Dessen. This is a part of my Sarah Dessen reread. I figured out that if I read one Sarah Dessen book a month for the rest of the Sarah Dessen books I have to read, I will be done by June. So I'm keeping on track. This was my February read. I really loved this. I would have to say, like, now the reread's getting kind of lost because my memory is so bad, and now I'm forgetting, like, the books I read, like, 2 years ago. But I think this is one of those books that I've always considered. Wow, you really can't see it. This is one of those books that I've always considered one of my favorite Sarah Dessen books. And so to revisit it, I still think I feel that way so far. There might be some, like, I really love The Truth About Forever and Keeping the Moon. And those are some of the books I can think of that are just, like, really made an impact on me. But this one I think might be my favorite. I still give it 4 stars just because I wasn't sure how I felt, like, if I wanted to give it a full 5. But I did love the whole thing. I loved the main love interest. I loved her, the main character, Auden. So I guess I should explain what this story is about because I'm trying to be better at explaining these things. This follows our main character, Auden, and her parents are kind of, like, unconventional. Her family's kind of different. When she was 16 or around there, her parents started fighting a lot, and they would wait for her to go to bed before they would fight. And so Auden decided that she was not going to go to sleep because if she didn't go to sleep, then they wouldn't fight. And that worked for a while until, obviously they just didn't wait for her and they just fought. And so when that happened, Auden would go out in the night and she would do her homework at diners or whatever. So this takes place as her parents are already divorced. Auden is, like, a very perfectionist. She works hard in school. She doesn't have a lot of friends. She's not a very no-nonsense type of person. And then I think something happens with her mom and she decides she needs a break. So she goes to live with her dad and her new stepmom, who just had a baby. And this follows her moving in and learning about her parents and whether she wants to be like her parents. Learning about her stepmom, who she always thought was, like, kind of a ditzy. To me, this story, and obviously she meets a love interest who, changes her world. To me, this story was very, talks a lot about, like, preconceived notions of people. Like, she expected her stepmom to be a certain way just because of the way her stepmom carried herself, and, like, people that she meets in the town of Colby, she expects them to have, like, less of an education or whatnot, and then she kind of learns that people have more layers and that people can change and they can be different things and they don't always have to be stuck in one box. And she kind of learns from Eli that you don't have to be perfect at everything. Like, you can try and fail, and that's part of just life. I thought this book had a lot of great messages in it. I thought there's a lot of good takeaways from it. I didn't like, sometimes in Sarah Dessen books there's a lot of, like, they just don't talk about things and they take a break and nothing, and then there's, like, 50 pages or so where things aren't resolved. I don't really like that a whole lot, and I think maybe that's not why I didn't give it a full 5 stars. And that's not even, it's just part of the way of storytelling, but I would so much, and maybe it's just where I am in my life, I just so much rather them talk about things, like her say, I'm dealing with these things and I don't know what to do, I've never had a relationship, but instead she just, like, goes into hiding, and then, and it's resolved, but it just takes some time, and I don't always like that, but I really like a lot about this story. I like that the relation to the bicycles, like, they're bicycle heavy in this, and there's different things going on with the bikes, and I really enjoyed that. It's just, like, a book about second chances, giving people second chances, and not always just because someone looks a certain way does not mean that they're less educated. I just really liked this book. I think it's probably one of my favorites. It was a good romance, and it was a good story. I liked side characters. Her parents were like pretty annoying because they're just so oblivious, but also that's part of like telling the story and like her discovering who she is. So yeah, that was the last book I read in February. Overall, I had a pretty good reading month. I'm going to read you my stats. Also, I'm going to show you last month I showed you my little page tracker and it was like all filled, and this one's going to look sad in comparison, but I'm going to show it to you anyways. So like at the top you could see I started out really strong, and then like most of the month there was like one day I read 50 pages. So I didn't stay on my 50 pages a day thing. And I can't really tell you why, it just didn't work for me this month. Okay, so my total of pages read in the month of February was 1,267. I read a total of 5 books, which I already said, and my number of rereads was 1, which was along for the ride. Number of books owned before this month, like I said in the last wrap up, that I'm trying to read most of my physical TBR because it's massive. And I did really great this month because all 5 books I had already owned. So that's really exciting. So yeah, that was my February wrap up. I hope you enjoyed it. If you read any of these books and you want to talk to me below in the comments, I would always love that. I hope to be back with another video soon. Thanks so much for watching, guys.